Our honorable chief guest, thank you so much for coming here on your busy schedule, and it's really welcoming to see you becoming a very good part of us. Other respected delegate guests, good evening, and thank you so much for welcoming TTDC with such a warm heart. Since, to be very frank, Nasir Bhai's speech was power-packed, and half of my, I think 80% of my work has been done by Nasir Bhai. So a very big round of applause for Nasir Bhai before we start. Thank you so much, Bhaiya. So I created an 18-slider keynote paper to be presented, which gave an overview of our core elements of the travel, tourism, hospitality, and aviation sector. But since most of these things have been covered by my esteemed speakers before, Wahid Bhai and Nasir Bhai, I think I'm going to cut short because we have a very important session at the end of this keynote paper. So if we go to the key agenda, that actually what do we want to achieve from here across the travel, tourism, and aviation sector, let's go and take a very deep look into this slide. When we're talking about the tourism industry, there are a couple of aspects that needs to be taken into consideration. The first being of course, the hospitality, the tourism sector, and the aviation sector. But once we have found, after a lot of research, a lot of homework, and a lot of hard work, that there are some basic principles that are actually lagging us behind, and for which we are not being able to bring tourism to the key potential that it actually desires. So if you look into this slide, you'll see that, and I would really request you to leave today's venue after the event with this thought process in mind, that whatever we are doing, is it actually the right thing that we're doing and the right approach that we're taking into. So from our previous speakers, we have been able to identify that in tourism, that the gap is not actually asset, or it's not actually demand. It is actually investments. And there are multiple reasons why these investments are not coming in, which we will take a deeper look once we go into the panel discussion that we have afterwards this. So going back, that why do we need to sell tourism actually, or why do we need to sell hospitality? Because we have a country that has so much of potential, but we are not being able to sell our story. We are not being able to tell our story that already is extremely extraordinary in its own nature. If you go into hospitality, the gap again is not opportunity. The gap is in policy. We do see a very high taxation and weak returns on investors, weak returns on investments, which is actually keeping the investors away. And that needs to be taken into consideration by the government, by the public, by the private institutes. And if we look into aviation, the most striking factor and the most distressing part is the active travel advisories that we have over Bangladesh. So all these travel advisories are keeping the Bangladeshi visitors, the foreign visitors who are willing to come to Bangladesh, away. But the government needs to act on these travel advisories right now. And it should not be a 3 to 5 year or a 5 to 10 year plan. The action or the execution needs to happen immediately if we want to bring in inbound tourism and make Bangladesh as a tourism hub in the world. So, but when we're talking about travel advisories, we do see a couple of positive movements. In July 2026, we see that the US lowered its Bangladesh travel advisory from level 3 to level 2, and Japan went from level 2 to level 1. These are actually extremely positive signals that is being given to the world, because these two countries are actually the world's most cautious advisory issuers, and if they follow, the rest of the world will actually follow them accordingly. But Bangladesh again needs to send the signal that we're ready to welcome our visitors. So underneath all these statements that we make, it is the same sentence and the same fact for all the three core segments of the industry. That is, the gap is in the policy and not the potential or the demand, right? And it flows through all the segments. We did speak about a lot of challenges and gaps in our through our previous speakers, but I want to give some good news as well. Something called the Creative Economy Fund. Right? This is what will be the game changer for our industry. So Bangladesh already has a Creative Economy Fund, and tourism has been named as an eligible sector. A big round of applause for this, please. This means that the door is already open for us, and it is not actually a future ask. It can finance the signature tourism circuits and heritage trails. It can turn festivals and villages into bookable products for our foreign visitors. It can co-finance the workforce gap that we have talked about previously and the training that we need. And it can definitely pull in the marketing money that Bangladesh as a nation needs to campaign on to position itself as one of the best and leading tourism destinations in the world. And not only that, we have talked about Sundarbans, we have talked about UNESCO sites, which we are all aware of. This creative fund economy money can actually turn all these heritage assets into revenue and not just make them go and sit idle. So if we use this fund well, the fund does not just support the culture, but it also grows tourism's share of the economy that our honorable chief guest just spoke about. So why, as our minister to the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Tourism mentioned, that she has seen so many people here across different industries, and that is the signal that tourism needs. And this is why we are also here on behalf of TTDC. But saying this is actually not the job of government alone. Government cannot make all the changes that is required to bring tourism back into track. So, of course, the first and primary task is for the government and the ministries. They need to strengthen their coordination and collaboration across different departments and different authorities and execute the national branding strategy that Bangladesh significantly lags behind. And most importantly, for tourists to come, the visa is required. The e-visa, on-arrival visa experiences needs to be kind of not only just focused on, but it needs to be legitimately worked on to the proper exercises. If you speak about airlines, another major contributor to the ecosystem, they need to share the route data, co-market the destinations, and engage on the cargo hub if we want to pull in more revenue. Important aspect is for the hotels. Normally when we talk about hotels, we talk about the service quality, but we do not see that there is any commitment or there is a lack of commitment to maintain the service quality standards across all the hotels that are operating in Bangladesh. And if you look for a foreigner, if you look into the global booking platforms, Bangladesh is most of the time not visible in most of the places, right? That means that global booking visibility is actually a prime focus for the hoteliers to adopt to. And first, last and foremost is that we need to adopt to responsible tourism practices because without responsible practices, tourism cannot sustain in the long term. Now, coming to the executioners are the tour operators and the agents. Where do they lie? So they need to start working on building the signature tourism products and services that mainly the foreigners or the investors or whoever is intending to look into Bangladesh can actually book. And whenever we are talking about all these associations and all these people, tour operators and agents, we see that there has never been a unified voice that speaks to the government with a unified message of what needs to be done. So this is something that needs to be extremely important for us to work on the private side. Investors is something that we always look up to, and this is also the most difficult and the critical side of our industry. So we need to start engaging with the investment climate work that is already underway and move multiple, not at least one, but mid-scale or eco-property towards feasibility, because that would be the start of our success. And finally, the storytellers, that is all our media representatives and the content creators that are available here today. We don't tell Bangladesh as a story that needs to be told. We normally focus on a lot of negativities, but we need to start selling Bangladesh's story and building our narrative, and that should be done with pride, right? And this should go across all channels, across all destinations, across the world. So coming to my concluding statements is that Bangladesh actually does not lack the asset, the opportunity, or even the demand. It is actually it's a failure or a lacking of a coordinated strategy, investment, and institution that brings everything together collectively in one successful platform. And today we are inviting you all to build that with us through TTDC. Thank you everyone for being here, and it was a pleasure speaking here.
Thank you, Ms. Sadia Haq, for your insightful presentation.